Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hot Takes. I want to give you a bit of a programming note. This is actually going to be the last hot take that I'll do for a while, simply because I'm pivoting and doing a podcast on the pivot. So 2025 is the 5-year anniversary of the global pandemic. Remember that time where, we were by law not allowed to leave our house and be around people who were not living in our households and related to us. So a lot of businesses did the pandemic pivot at that time. Whether you were in business and had to change how you do business, or if you were like McEwen Media and you became a business during the pandemic, there was a whole lot of conversation around the pivot, what it meant to pivot back then and what it's meant to pivot now. So the podcast, these are the stories I'm looking forward to talk about in the podcast. If you pivoted your business, if your business is your pivot, or if you're pivoting now because of an idea that came to you during the pandemic, I want to talk to you because there are two things that I know are the secrets to success in business. That is the ability to pivot and be persistent. So those are the two topics of conversation I want to hear. I want to hear from more businesses who have made that leap and are continuing to work hard to make this business a reality, because pivoting is powerful. It's also scary. There's also a lot of learning involved in it. So look forward to when that happens. Keep watching this space. I'll be sharing more information on how you can nominate yourself or nominate a business to be featured. But those are the main themes that I want to cover in that podcast. And speaking of pivoting, I'm pivoting myself in some of the content that I cover. I've been talking about on-camera confidence for a really long time. It's a topic that's really resonated with audiences. I have a quarterly coaching workshop that I do every 3 months. Like, it is just, to me, it's the number one thing that I love talking about. And y'all are super interested in how to have on-camera confidence. But the more I teach that, the more I realize, well, hang on a second. Confidence actually isn't the name of the game. I see it actually in a lot of speakers, right? People who are used to commanding a large stage. When they're on their social media, they're still carrying that same energy, right? They're attacking the camera and they're super in your face. When I worked at the Maryland Dentist Show, we would book experts like that. And the term we used for that was performing. We were aware of their performance. They were projecting too much. And as a producer, that was actually just as bad for us as someone who was a dead weight, right? Someone who wasn't giving us anything, any material. The two extremes, you're rejecting, you're pushing the audience away. If you're dead weight, you're not giving them anything to hold on to. And if you're too much in performing, then you're pushing them away. The sweet spot is actually on camera comfort. Being in this space, communicating in this space, and feeling like it's normal, right? There's no big deal. So that's where when I realized that this was the topic that I wanted to cover, there was one photographer in particular that I wanted to reach out to. So Vijitha Bahadur is a photographer, content creator, and storyteller. She helps people shine in front of the camera so they can walk away owning images that they are proud to show off. Images that will mirror back to you the best of who you are. Her goal is to change the way you see yourself. So please welcome to the stage, Vijitha. Where are you? Let me add you to the stage. There you go. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Tara.
Oh, thank you. I wish that I was a little bit more technically astute and I could actually show some of your photographs. So if you're in a position to check out Viji's photos, do so, because they are exactly what you promised, right? The authentic versions of themselves, which is really hard to capture in any capacity. So tell me a little bit about how you got into photography.
I've always loved photography, and even as a child, I would take pictures and things like that. And I was always interested, regardless. I call myself like a corporate dropout because I was in corporate just until after the pandemic. So I was one of the stats, right, who really thought about my life during pandemic, if this is really what I wanted to do, work these hours. And it wasn't a creative job really per se, not like photography would be. And so, I wound up taking a class just out of let me just get back into this. Loved it. And then I started doing it on the weekends and with my family and friends, seeing what their reactions was. And then, I decided to take that leap because I kept asking myself, like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life, being in corporate? And the answer was no.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started my business and I'm still doing it and I'm meeting new people and I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
And I love how, it didn't feel like a gift at the time, but that gift of time, that pause during the pandemic where we had no other choice but to look at, well, is this actually how I want my life to go? Anytime I look back at that time period, it wasn't so much about having the free time, but I think it was just the realization that life can change in an instant, right?
Mhm.
It can change on a dime. So knowing that time is limited, how do I want to make the best use of my time? And I love that exploration of just like I kind of love photography, so I'll do it, on evenings and weekends and see where it goes. Because I think a lot of business owners or frustrated entrepreneurs go straight to the how can I make money.
Right.
You just pursue what you love, the money comes afterwards. So tell me then more, because it's photography, but it's specifically portrait photography. So what is it about the human subject that attracted you?
I love listening to people's stories.
Okay.
Right. And the thing is, I'm a good observer in that sense. Like I'll never forget a face.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, when I was thinking of portraits, I'm like, I want to capture people's expressions. I want to capture where they are today.
Hmm.
Right. So whether it's a mother or a family, a business owner, and that kind of just fell into my lap later because even as I was growing my business and sort of getting into entrepreneurship. And remember, coming from corporate is very different, right? It's sometimes you just know the people in your building, whereas as an entrepreneur, you really have to get out there. You've got to meet people, and it's all that communication, your communication skills that you've got to like really get yourself out of your shell to be able to meet new people, right? Um, and so once I started talking to entrepreneurs and listening to their stories, I found it inspiring. And I love that. Like, I love anybody who comes into the studio and starts telling me their story
Hmm.
because I can see that they are going backwards in time, right? So they're reminiscing, which we don't always get a chance to do. We're all, we get to that goal, we get to that point, and then we're always looking forward for the next one,
Yeah.
right? And so when you ask the questions, when anyone's booking with me and I ask them, the questions on how they got to where they are, I can see it in their face, like they're reliving it. And they tend to appreciate that.
Hmm.
Something I love to see and hear.
Yeah. I love that approach too of really exploring inside the person and what their story is. Because I think, especially in the marketing space, there are so many people out there who think that there's some kind of formula, right? You start with the
Mhm.
avatar or you do the market research, like what is the market going to deliver? But I think I'm very aligned with where you are, where it's like, no, the person, especially within the entrepreneurs, they've fallen in love with an idea. They have no idea if it's going to work.
Right.
They're building the plane in midair, but there's something about the story that moment where the idea came to them and when they found the courage to take action on it, that is their story, that is their brand. And I always tell business owners who work with me, I'm like, that's actually the DNA of what you want to bring to the service. The features and benefits, the product, like the actual business itself, no one's looking to connect with that. They're looking to connect with you and your story. So is there, when you're working with business owners in the space, how are they aware of this process? Like, is their story ready to go by the time they're ready to be photographed, or is there a bit of education and coaching?
There's a bit of coaching in that sense. So I tend to focus on the energy of the person.
Okay.
So that's in front of me, which definitely produces different results between clients, right? So it's about building that concept that's based around each client and
Mhm.
what they do and how they serve their clients,
Mhm.
right? So it's me, I'm probing and I'm asking questions
Yeah.
the whole process, even during the consult, right? And a lot of the times, some of my clients can't answer that, so I leave it with them. I said, I want you to answer. Think about it. We've got time. Think about who are your ideal clients, because sometimes, I mean, that changes too,
Yeah.
right? As time goes by.
Yep.
So, what you started with, and maybe you've done a headshot before, and now you're coming because, hey, guess what? I'm getting, more requests to be on speaking stages, or I'm launching a book, and so that clientele changes because now maybe you're coaching. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of questions I probe at to make them think about who their ideal client is and how are you serving them, and how do you want to be portrayed?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I love that. There are a couple things that I want to unpack here. First is the idea that your avatar, your client, which I always refer to as the audience, changes. And it can change, because I think a lot of people, especially when they go through the process of building their personal brand, they think, well, this is it. It's done. I've got my head, I've got the name of my business, I've got a logo, I've got the colors, I've got the website. I can now conduct business for the next 10 to 20 years and not change anything. But I think if you're doing that, then that's where misalignment comes in. That's where the business gets hard and frustrating. If you allow yourself, I think, to kind of go with the flow, and also just allow yourself to guide, well, who do I want to serve right now? I actually personally went through this journey not too long ago. I started off working with a lot of solopreneurs and small business owners who, 3 years ago, really, really needed and wanted to work with me. That's petered off. I feel like, for a small business, if you're concerned about a recession coming up, for example, you're not investing in getting on television. But then I started looking around at like, well, who does need my support and my media prowess? And I thought, oh, hang on a second. Other larger businesses that are doing their own recession proofing, that are maybe looking at layoffs and cutbacks, they need help navigating that messaging. So I just kind of shifted. Well, the exact same skills and tools that I've given to the small business owners, I can now apply to you and help guide you on your story. And it was a very subtle shift. I think if you've been watching McEwen Media, even if you go check out the website, they're very subtle. I haven't made like an official announcement. This is what I'm doing. I'm leaning into consulting, but it's just, no, there's actually, this is who I'm feeling called to help right now. Where can my services be done to the most good? So I love that you're already introducing that idea for business owners, that they can change your story. It's a trending story.
Yeah. And I can see it in some of my repeat clients as well, like where we started versus, where they're ending up as they come like 2-3 times.
Yeah.
And I can see even their confidence, right? From the time they first did their headshot to like now strolling in, all right, I'm ready. And they're ready to go. So it's nice to see that.
So walk me through then, because I think that the relationship that I'm hearing from with your clients is, we're capturing who you are right now, the awareness of who you are in your business at this moment. So walk me through, how do you get them to see that and then be comfortable with having that come to the surface, right? Because I feel like, staged photographs and beautiful styled photographs are a comfort level for a lot of people.
Yes.
Allowing that authenticity to come through is harder.
Yeah. So in the time from the consult to when they come in, during the consult, I'll ask a few questions. I probe into what they do. And like I said, who their ideal client is, how they want to be portrayed. So typically I ask for a couple of words on how you want to be described. And then from that, I build a storyboard for my client. So I'm like, based on what you said, these are the kind of images I'm thinking of. Is there something that you're not, like, you're a hard no on, and most of the time they understand and they're comfortable with that. And then we talk about wardrobe, styling. I have hair and makeup, a hair and makeup artist who I love, who comes in. She loves what she does. She's really great with the clients, and it gives them a chance to relax too.
Yeah.
Because remember, they come in and they don't know what, and even though you go through the process, they're still nervous. Everyone's nervous. And so it gives them a chance to really like calm down and sort of sit down, get pampered, look your best. You don't have to worry about anything, about straightening your hair, curling, anything like that. Yeah. And then during the process, I always tell people, I'll pose and direct you. Right? Most of people will stand. They don't know what to do with their hands. They don't know how to stand, which is fair. And so I would guide them in that sense. But really what I want, like, my whole brand is built on, you're coming, I have a home studio. So I'm having you come in and it's like you're coming to meet a friend. Right? So I'll welcome you. And, as you come into the studio, it's like having a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, by this time, I know a little bit more about my client. And even though I pose and direct them, there's times like when we're having the conversation, someone will do something with their hand, or it's like a gesture or a laugh. And I'm like, that, like, if it was you, I'd be like, that's a terrorism.
Yeah.
nail it, you know, because even like it's something that other people will see when they see they're like, oh my God, Tara laughs like that.
Yeah.
Oh, she always does that with her glasses, you know? And that's what, for me, that's what it's about. So it's about easing people into that. And then during the set changes, like when they're changing wardrobe, I'll show them the back of the camera or my screen, and I'll be like, come here, take a look at this. And that just, once they see that, they are so comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like, okay, I got this. I can do this.
I love their because I think what your process describes how I would define then the difference between confidence and comfort. Comfort is knowing that this is just a conversation. Like that was even the bit of training and advice I gave you before this started. I'm like, we're just having a conversation. We've had this conversation before. This is why I invited you on here.
Yeah.
There's something about understanding that whenever you are reaching an audience, you're just on one side of a fascinating conversation. We know how to do that. We know how to be in conversation. We don't always know how to be photographed. We don't know how to be on television, but we know how to be in conversation. So I think when you start thinking in terms of that, that's where you move into comfort, right? I know how to have a conversation. I know how to speak. This is a place that I'm familiar with. The confidence piece comes, and I think that there is still importance to hair, makeup, wardrobe. But I think that's another area where if you focus on that, you're putting on armor, right? If it's too much makeup, and especially if it's makeup that you're not used to seeing, and I think if you are the public face of your business and people are paying to work with you, how you show up on social media is who they should expect to see. It should be the exact same look. Like the only thing, I'm wearing my hair a little bit longer than what my headshots are, but I'm just like, I'm still the same person, right?
Exactly,
my makeup is glasses and a power lip. That's it. That's the extent.
And you know what? That's fair, because a lot of clients, especially for personal branding, they'll be like, Vijitha, I don't really wear makeup. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's a no makeup look.
Yeah.
No makeup look. And at the end of the day, you know, when my hair makeup girl is finished, she'll always be like, take a look. Right? If it's too much, we take it off. Now for the camera, sometimes even if it's a bit darker with the lighting, it tends to be a bit lighter in terms of what comes across. But yeah, at the end of the day, it really is about making people feel comfortable. Music is like a staple.
Yeah.
Right? A staple. So I typically ask people, like, you know, what kind of music do you listen to? During hair and makeup, I keep it a little bit mellow. But then when they come up here, if it's like hip hop, if it's R&B, if it's like whatever it is, I want that. It's about creating a space that they are comfortable in, because it's just me and them.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're comfortable, your full self comes to the surface, and it's as simple as that. And I think too, understanding that the camera, it captures your energy. There's a lot of nonverbal communication that happens when whether it's a still photograph or a video. There's a whole other language that we actually don't control, but we know how to speak it and we know how to interpret it. Like that's when I do deliver a speaker training to people, I'm like, don't worry about your hands. I'm a hand talker. My hands are. If I tried to control my hands, there would be no words. I wouldn't know what to say.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, again, it's similar to your process. If you just get comfortable, normalize being in this space, and know that I'm just having a conversation with someone that is meant to be overheard by others. Now it's a familiar space. I know how to be in this space. I know how to talk in this space, and my body knows how to express in this space as well. I don't need to control anything. I just need to allow it to surface.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, sometimes I notice sometimes with clients, it's like they are too much in their head, and I can see it.
Yep.
You can see tension on people's faces.
Yep.
So then it's just a matter of me going through breathing exercises, and I do it with them, right? Like inhale 3, hold out, and just to get them relaxed, because I'll tell them, I can see it in your face. I can see that tension in your face, and we don't want that, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, like I said, it really is getting people comfortable, getting them to step in their own space, like step into who they are becoming, right? So that's the other aspect of it is, okay, sometimes I say, okay, we want pictures for where you are today, but where are you going in the future, right? Do you want to be on TV? Do you want to be on podcasts? Are you going to do some coaching? So think about that, because these photographs you can use for another 2 years, unless you color your hair or do something like drastic to your appearance, you can use these images.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I love that process. I love hearing more about, it's more the psychology of showing up as your full self. It has nothing to do with, superhero poses or any of that stuff. Again, I put that in the confidence bucket. Hair and makeup, poses, breathing is beautiful. Like bringing yourself out of your head and into your body is an easy way to start to calm the nerves. So if anyone's watching here and they are a little bit apprehensive, they tell themselves, well, I don't photograph well, I hate being photographed. What is one thing you can offer to get them to change their mind?
Is definitely talk to somebody who's a professional, because the other thing is a lot of us have that head trash because we haven't been professionally photographed. A professional photographer is looking at your lighting, is looking at your posing, right? Like if you go to a party, if you go to a wedding, you're getting somebody who's taking a picture, who's like, you're out in the sunlight and you get the harsh, shadows, and you look at the picture and you're like, oh, I look awful in picture. And that's not the truth.
Yeah. Right?
So at the end of the day, talk to the photographer, let them know. Everybody who comes, I have people who come through the door, they're like apologizing already. Like, what, Beach, I'm going to do this, but I'm telling you, and I'm just like, no, don't worry. And then they leave and they're like, that was so easy. I'm like, yes, it is that easy. As long as you get that head trash out, it is that easy.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to start using head trash, because you're right. Photography is just lighting and angles. When I learned that whatever is closest to the camera is what shows up biggest, I realized, every time I'm photographed, I'm leaning away. So every photo.
Yes.
Well, so now when I do these talks, I'm like leaning forward.
Listen, and I'll be honest with you. Sometimes when I'm posing people, they'll tell me, I'm like, I know. It feels awkward, but from my angle, this is awesome.
Oh, collaboration saves the day again. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing more of your process. I think it's given people some food for thought of what it really takes to be comfortable in this space and let your true self pop. So where can people find and learn more about your work?
Sure. Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at VijithaB_photography, or you can check out my website at vijithab.com.
Oh, amazing. Well, I think the next time I need to get my headshots done, you and we're going to collaborate.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you, Fiji. We'll talk.